Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Xi Jinping has removed General Hui Weidong, the second highest ranking officer in the People's Liberation Army, the PLA, and a vice chair of the Central Military Commission, leading to a massive military coup. Beijing is under lockdown like the apocalypse is about to happen, while tens of thousands of businesses prepare to leave China. Desperate, with nothing left to lose, the young people in China lash out, and society begins to collapse, leading to massacres and revenge attacks. From building coal plants every 3 weeks in South America, Africa, and East Asia as part of its global plan, to barely being able to keep its own citizens in check, massacring thousands, we will explore some CCP garbage. Welcome back for another video. Join us today as we expose the paper tiger of the once powerful juggernaut, the Chinese Communist Party. Hui Weidong's removal is a big deal in a lot of ways. He is like the Chinese Sergei Shigoyu or Mad Dog Mattis. He served as the commander in the Eastern Theater Command. He led large-scale military drills, and these guys knew how to conduct complex military drills and combined arms warfare. The guy really knew how to project Chinese power. His troops loved him, and his underlying staff and cadre looked up to him. All massive traits you want to see in a military leader. With a leader of that magnitude gone, there may not be anyone who can replace him. This was shown to the world during the Operation Straight Thunder on April 1, 2025, with the exercise aimed to have the Army, Air Force, Navy, and missile forces to conduct complex combined arms exercises and boast Chinese power, conducting drills for weeks. But the exercise was cut off 24 hours after it began, instead of going for a week, as originally planned. The Chinese government has not made an official announcement, but several sources say General Weidong has been detained and questioned, possibly over corruption. He had not appeared in recent public events, and there is a general blackout in media surrounding the event. Allegedly, the two highest level commanders of these operations were both, quote, detained. But, as history will tell you, left-wing purges do not leave men like this alive. With that being said, the entire Chinese military is facing massive desertion and dereliction of duty. Now you may be wondering, is the Chinese military just dog shit in a trench coat? And the answer will not shock you if you thought yes. As you all know, I love talking smack about the CCP, and as officers and enlisted watch higher-ups getting arrested, I'm sure morale is doing great in the PLA. All that aside though, the corruption within the PLA is so horrific that their delivery systems for their nuclear weapons do not have fuel in them. Their rockets have been filled with water, as commanders have sold the rocket fuel off to help make ends meet. Chinese weapon exports are taking a huge hit as well. As I'm sure you can imagine, China exports weapons to a lot of different groups. Pakistan loves buying from Russia and China. They buy anti-aircraft radar and missile systems, which are Chinese copies of the S-3 and 400 anti-aircraft missile systems, and the famed FM-90. How many jets from India did they detect and shoot down? Oh, they didn't detect any? Not a single rocket or jet. Oh, that seems to be some kind of horrible mistake, especially at hundreds of millions of dollars per unit. Each S-300 missile system comes in at $350 million a unit. As a matter of fact, the India Air Force hit Pakistan multiple times without so much as even a single bullet being fired at their Rafales and MiGs. But that's just air defense, right? They also sell equipment to other nations across Asia, Africa, South America, like Nigeria, Myanmar, and Pakistan, They have all bought fighter jets, the JF-17 Thunder. When Myanmar received these aircraft in 2022, the airframes were developing cracks and were grounded immediately. Once they were made flyable and ready, the radar was found to be not tracking targets precisely. Long story short, they sidelined the entire fleet of aircraft for parts. Next, we see Nigeria, 2009, purchasing loads of the F-7 to beef up its air force, which is just a copy of the MiG. Most of them crashed due to avionics failures, and the rest had to be sent back for extensive repairs. Going back to Pakistan, they have struggled with the F-22P frigate, as the engines are broken down from old mothballed Chinese ships and wear out far too quickly, and all the fancy sensors that are supposed to detect threats simply don't. They're so unreliable that the Pakistani crews have been resorting to binoculars. Surely, though, the Chinese push to become a world-class fighting force by 2049 has seen some success. Yeah, sure. Like the Chinese sub that got detected by the Japanese home defense fleet, and the crew was so worried about losing the sub that they surfaced and raised the CCP flag and made it look like a surrender. But wait, there's more! How about their aircraft carrier? The most important vehicle in any fleet, boasting a total displacement of 80,000 tons, coming in at 1,036 feet in length, 249 feet wide, which makes it about as large as the smallest U.S. carrier, Kitty Hawk. It also only has 2 catapults on either side of the island, indicating its smaller payload of aircraft. The USS Ford has 3 elevators to move aircraft between hangar deck and flight deck. The Fuyan has 2. All signs that the Chinese military is not teetering anymore, but rather is on the verge of total collapse. And speaking of collapse, we mentioned in the intro, societal collapse. Ribcage, take it away.
Data on the Chinese GDP is no longer being reported and the numbers are being falsified. The data that is published follows close to their projected numbers for that quarter, but there has been an abrupt halt in numbers being reported. The younger working class generation is largely unemployed, the oldest generation has the most employment, and the middle-aged folks have zero will to live anymore. Hundreds of data points have stopped being published at all. 2 most notable being urban area unemployment benefits recipients and land sales. The CCP is heavily controlling the narrative and even going as far as outright silencing reporters who give the most neutral statements about the state of the economy, this happening specifically to a man by the name of Gao Shanwen. Or you could be as unlucky as Han Yong, a former party secretary and chairman of the Shaanxi Provincial Committee, who was sentenced to death earlier this week at the time of recording over taking $36 million in bribes over the past 30 years. Surrounding countries with lower tariffs like Cambodia, Thailand, and Malaysia are given contracts through social media predominantly, like apps Redno, to falsify country of origin in order to get goods imported and exported, which is super illegal because it completely goes around the tariffs that were put in place by the United States. All of this because the CCP, Xi Jinping specifically, is not interested in any meaningful change to his contrived economy. In 2018, it took only a month for negotiations to begin after a clear and strong stance was taken against cooperation with the US, and it took until the end of 2019 to get anything of significance done. In 2020, those tariffs were doubled down on, and now we are seeing the cycle repeat. The public is crying out in a huge way, but China is using the Roman circus tactic to try and ease the population by importing singers like Mariah Carey and Charlie Puth to put on shows to distract their poor and starving people. With what money they will be using for those shows, I have no idea. Others are taking a bolder approach to their goods smuggling to avoid tariffs. A Chinese actor by the name of Wang Zitao, at the time of recording, had launched a seemingly successful sanitary napkin brand. The following day after the launch, a woman was detained in Shenzhen Luhou Customs for smuggling 616 carats, roughly over 2,000 pieces, of synthetic diamonds in sanitary napkins. Now, the brand of napkins was not mentioned in the article. This on top of multi-story malls being deserted in what used to be wealthy city centers. Yiwu, the world's supermarket, a massive shopping mall boasting a size of 6.4 million square meters and 70,000 businesses, about 3,000 of those continuously trading with the United States, has seen a wave of business failures and a drop in sales upwards of 60 to 70%. Some businesses seeing an import tax exceeding the initial price of their product by 150%. Beijing is largely under lockdown now because of riots and massacres, this beginning in April and the start of May. One of the most notable events being on April 3rd, where an explosion occurred in the Sky Garden in Xinjiang, where allegedly a man was mistreated by the property management, filled a car with explosives, and set it off at the company's office. Fair enough. This all interspersed between random acts of violence and revenge attacks on establishments, mainly in the form of stabbings and vehicular manslaughter, with some instances involving children. The people have had enough. Protests are being turned into riots by police. People are being arrested for voicing their discontent of the failing economy, and corrupt officials who bulldoze houses to make room for the same shopping centers that now not even rats touch. The CCP is a lot like the high-rise buildings they make, built on flimsy tofu brick and bound to crumble and break under the weight of its own incompetent structure. When their military is full of paper tigers, the only way they could hope to win was a trade war. But when you purposefully draw out negotiations to play for time, when the clock strikes zero, you end up with less than when you started.
If you liked the video today, consider supporting us on Patreon. Additionally, we have a merch store on Teespring. Links in the description below.